we're here for episode 1. This is Fuckboy Friday. I'm Bree, your host.
I'm Kaylee,
Co-host.
And I'm the fuckboy Tanner.
And we're here to teach you new age dating tips because everyone sucks at dating. Today's topic is going to be technology and how it ruins dating and relationships. So,
which it does.
Word. So what's everybody's thought process on this?
honestly, I feel like technology has changed our brains in general. So it has kind of ruined dating. It's ruined our connection as far as how we bond with other people, how we speak to other people. It's kind of limited us to online rather than being in person.
And it shows basically like all what you can't have, or like, I don't know, social media makes it to where you're, and technology makes it to where you're connected to people that you wouldn't necessarily be connected to if those weren't around. Like an ex or a stalker.
Yeah. Well, when we were talking about this topic too, I was saying that like it's a weird catch-22 because on one hand, like if it weren't for like Facebook, I wouldn't have met my girlfriend. And so, in one sense, you are actually introduced to a much larger group of people that you wouldn't used to meet. But on the other hand, I think the big thing that's changing, like she was saying, is how we specifically communicate in dating. So, when we were talking about this topic, I brought up the fact that it used to be that if a guy, in order to meet a girl at all, at some point he had to walk up and talk to her. And he had to actually go and be confident and try to introduce himself, and he had to get her interest. And now, sometimes walking up and talking to a girl in public is almost weird. Which is like a really insane thing if you think about the fact that when online dating came out, that was seen as weird. Like,
yeah.
Or just talking to people online. I remember being in school and everyone freaking out about, IMing people or like meeting people from online, and that like literally became our future.
Well, and it used to be, it's crazy how much it changed in like 20 years, because it used to be literally like, it was weird that you were going to go meet someone from the internet. They were like, that's dangerous.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or like, I saw, exactly. It used to be like, don't get into cars with strangers, and now we call an Uber and get into a stranger's car to go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like that whole thing has completely shifted. It used to be don't talk to strangers on the internet. Now it's entirely you're gonna meet your significant other on the internet.
Yeah, like it used to be a bad taboo, but now it's like a fun taboo. People do it all the time.
Right.
They like it.
Yeah, that's true.
It's so weird.
Well, I guess there can be two sides of it, because, like, yeah, you do meet a lot of people, but do you really meet somebody, or are you meeting somebody who's putting on a show for you?
Right, and well, that's part of
like a filter.
Exactly.
That's part of the problem. I think, like, there's two things that I think about. One is that what we were talking about had to do with. I think that a reason why relationships are struggling today, suffer, is because you didn't used to have access to people, like you mentioned, like an ex. You didn't stay in contact. Like, I think about this all the time. It used to be that a husband could literally, like, it sounds messed up, but a husband, if he wanted to, he could leave his family and just move like 6 miles away and just start over.
Yeah.
And nobody would know. Like, he literally could just be like, well, I'm done here, and he could just leave. And nowadays, you never get away from your ex. You never get away from people.
You'll be able to find someone. You'll be able to search them on social media.
Oh yeah.
Or,
and even if you've got them blocked, like inevitably there's those weak moments where you're just like, well, I just want to see what so-and-so's doing. I want to see what they're up to.
Yeah.
But the big thing that I think the problem is that the grass is always greener. And so you get these situations where inevitably, if you're in a relationship, it stops being new, it stops being exciting, and eventually you're going to fight, you're going to have issues. And the problem is then when you're frustrated with your partner and you're looking through dating apps or social media, like you said, you're seeing this perfect, polished version of somebody who, in your mind, like so the grass is always greener, they never would nag you. They would never be in a bad mood. I bet you their mother-in-law isn't a bitch. All these like things where you can convince yourself like I bet things would be so much better with that person. Whereas our parents, when they had an issue in a relationship, they just had to deal with it. Nowadays, it's so much easier to just cut them off and to just be like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go find somebody who doesn't do one thing you're doing to me.
Yeah, most definitely.
And that's
wants to work for it.
Yeah.
Right. And
no
then
effort.
Right, and then it's never, and I think that's it. It's the constant distractions, the constant. You have a never-ending amount of options, and because you're going off of their social media or their dating profile, they seem perfect. But in reality, they have just as many flaws as your current situation. Yeah, that one I think that would be an issue. Yeah.
Temptation is always there. It's just, if you act upon it or not.
True, that's very true. It is, yeah, I agree with that. Because being in a relationship, I'm definitely tempted, but I'm not going to do anything. But now that I'm single, it's like a whole different ballpark because I'm tempted.
Because you're one of those people who has 15 conversations on their Tinder and 15 going on their Facebook, and they have so many options to where you don't have to worry about putting your effort with one person.
True.
Do you have relationships or people you've dated in the more traditional sense where you met them out in public or you were introduced by a friend versus ones on Tinder? And how have those compared? I'm really weird because I just turned 30. But I didn't have social media until I was 26.
Wow.
I was really, so while everybody our entire age is growing up, we're super into social media. So the vast majority of relationships, the vast majority of women I've dated, were in a traditional sense.
Right, you met them from friends.
Yeah, I met them in college. I met them through friends. Exactly. It was stuff like that, right? Versus, I personally, I suck at Tinder.
Okay.
I'm horrible. So I was just wondering, what has your experiences been, both of you obviously, with meeting somebody online or on Tinder versus meeting someone on the road?
I feel like when I meet somebody in the real world, it's got to be, first of all, somebody that's not my friend, because I don't date friends. I won't do that. That's just too much, and then it gets messy. Plus, I've done it before, and it didn't end well. So. But also, it's just like, I have more connections and better connections, I feel like, with the friends that I have met outside of the internet than I, have with the people that I have dated in the internet. Because I've had 2 dates with the internet. Because I'm actually fairly new to, like, going out on dates and meeting people through the internet. I'm still, like you said, it's kind of, it's new to me because I would rather do the traditional, getting to meet you and get to know you, because you could be just putting on a show for me and telling me what I want to hear if we're doing Snapchat or,
Well, that's something whenever I'm helping my friends who are single or who are trying to date, that's the thing I'm constantly going through. It's easy to be good or smooth or whatever when you're texting somebody, because I have an hour to respond. I can come up with a perfect response to everything. I can come up with something funny to say or whatever. And what I always explain to them, I'm like, but you guys are all good online, and then you meet in person, and you're a nervous wreck. Yeah, and you're awkward, and you're horrible with them. And that's what I'm always telling my guy friends. I'm like, at some point, you have to be able to walk up to a girl, especially in front of her friends. You need to be able to walk up in front of a group of women and actually be able to get roasted a bit, fuck with each other, like laugh and everything, but to make them like, okay, he's confident. He's not scared by us. Because I have friends who literally I was just talking to a girlfriend yesterday who I set up with a guy friend, and she said the same thing. She said he was fantastic on text. And then he got here, and it was like I was talking to a high schooler.
Yeah, see, that's just not fun. And yeah, it does happen, because it's like, Okay, I've had 2 guys now think because I was nice to them or because I gave them the time of the day that I was interested in them. Because that they're hidden, you know, behind the social medias and
Behind
what.
their phone.
Yeah, behind their
Yeah.
phone, behind technology. And they think, oh, well, you know, she's into me because of this or...
So I mean, piggybacking off of that. So if it's different meeting people in the real world and online, do you think you hold yourself back more when you meet someone from online, or are you more yourself and you're more open because you're comfortable?
You can.
I don't know, I think it depends on the conversation. I like to talk deeply. I don't like to have, like, talks where it's just something that's, oh, how's your day? Or, I don't know.
Yeah, stupid small talk.
Yeah,
Nobody
small
likes
talk
that.
is not my thing. So
Right.
it's like, that's the issue with me is I would rather meet you and talk to you than talk to you online. But meeting you, if I've talked to you online, it's harder for sure because I haven't really met you yet. Like, I kind of met you. You know, like,
So you're not going to be your full self with someone you
yeah,
don't know or you kind of met.
exactly. I'm not gonna give them that attention until I know who they are in person. I guess is the best way.
Yeah, I was a little different. It's weird because like I said, I am terrible on dating apps. I don't know if it's that I make bad profiles or if my pictures look bad or whatever it is. I'll circle back because I have a theory on it, but I tell it sounds weird. Like it's funny when you said you're like I'm on Snapchat more. I tell people all the time I have met more. I've gotten more dates, more hookups, and more girlfriends from Facebook than anything else, and they found that weird. I tell people that, but the thing is Facebook. It's not nearly as weird to add somebody as a friend, and then just interact with them. And what I try to explain to like my guy friends, because I was like, no, dude, I'm meeting way more women on Facebook, and it's because if we just meet up in a comment section, and I'm just like funny, or if I follow you,
Right.
I can see stuff you're interested in. I can actually learn about you and be like, oh, she posted about this band, or she liked this this stand-up episode. You know, all these things. And then I actually can DM you about something funny. But I really do believe it's important to show that you're able to be funny and normal in the comment section.
Right.
To
No,
get a girl.
definitely.
Because you guys know this. If you get a friend request from a dude and immediately he DMs you, you know what that is. Like, you know what that means. You know he's immediately just like, hey, what's up? And but in my situation, if I added you because we had an actual funny connection, yeah, something in the comments section on a post because of a meme or something.
Yeah, no, I could
And
see
we,
that.
you know, like I just was thinking of the one time a girl and I found out just that we had the same birthday.
Okay.
And then so we started talking about that, and we were like, God, can you imagine how great this would be if we went out because we would never forget each other's birthday? And then we talked about like we could, you know, it was all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so when I did DM her, it wasn't weird
Right.
because I was able to shoot her something regarding our conversation. And I think that's the thing. The problem with just sliding into somebody's DMs or on Tinder or anything like that is you're basically, again, we're leading with just like, I think you're hot. That's the best you can go with. That's the best you can go with.
Unless
just
it's like those lame pickup lines, like.
Because if you don't know a thing about them,
Yeah, they didn't
How-
know you.
yeah, they have no connection. That's what I like. Every time, like I have a friend, he'll go on a date, or he'll be looking at a girl's profile,
Yeah.
and I tell him, you have got to find something from her profile to talk to her about. Because you guys, like you were saying,
She
you
can
can't
relate
stand.
to,
You
yeah.
can't stand the hey, the hi, the whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like the what are you doing? How was your day? What are you up to?
Like, I don't know you.
Right, yeah.
I've never talked to you,
Right.
and this is like, yeah.
But if he comes in and sees that you were wearing a band T-shirt, that he really likes, and he's like, oh, I saw them live back in, whatever. Then you're gonna actually have something to talk about, and that's like, I truly think that that's part of the problem is like, and like she had mentioned, I think that this has messed up how we communicate, because we're not. There isn't a secret to this. It's that you literally have to have conversation and engage with them, and it will go well. But if you're just going off of the basics, I'm gonna say, hey, what's up? What are you doing? And hope that this just advances to sex. 9 times out of 10, you're just
it's not gonna work.
No,
Yeah,
definitely not.
can guarantee.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I would rather have a conversation that's deep, but I don't want you to, like, oh, I just added you, so now you're gonna DM me.
Right.
Like, that's not, you.
Every hour of the day and have nothing to say but, hey, what
Yeah.
are you doing? Hi,
Yeah.
Good morning.
what's up?
Well, so that leads me to my
I
other.
had
So
that one time, actually, and I had to tell this guy, like, you are annoying the fuck out of me, and
Right.
you need to stop, because we have tried to hang out before, it didn't work out, and he's a red flag anyway, so I'm just like, yeah, I don't need this, and you need to stop messaging me so much, like, hey, what are you doing tonight? This, like, no, just stop. So I had to tell him, like, you're annoying, and you need to leave me alone,
Oh,
because it just gets to a point where it's like, why are you caring if you're not trying to get to know me? Like, you're not trying to get to know me. That's not, you need to try to get to know me if you're going to be interested.
like that.
So
Like, communicate.
what have been, I wouldn't say lines, but what have been an effective way that a guy has engaged you on the internet that made you want to talk to him? Or what was it that made you actually, certain people you're interested in talking to, and other ones, like you said, they're just talking to themselves in your inbox?
If they like the same interests as me,
I feel like if they're actually willing to break the ice.
Right.
Go past the, hey,
yeah.
cutie.
Right.
Or something stupid.
Yeah.
Like, send a joke.
Right.
Be funny. As you said, women love funny men.
Say things, hi, hey, oh my god, gorgeous, what's up? Oh my goodness. And like, that's the big thing is like this endless amount. I feel like what happened for me and what happens with a lot of guys, the reason why I only got a couple of matches is we get lost in that sea of likes, in that sea of dudes. So you guys, the girls, are able to literally choose out of 500 dudes, the 2 or 3 they find most attractive, and the rest, like I said, I feel like just get lost in that ocean of likes. And I don't know what the reason. Why do you think, aside from just dudes being like hornier, why is it that it is so slanted in that direction compared to, like I said, where I would get 2 or 3?
I think it has to do with, you know, what you're going through. Because if you're a guy and you're only going to get 2 to 3 matches,
Right.
don't you want to send out all the matches to every single woman to see, like, hey, I'm going to get the most out of my Tinder today? You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like that's kind of what it comes down to, is they have so many options that they're just going to take it because.
Yeah, no, like I said,
You know,
it is a big, like, it's a big difference when I see my girlfriend's Tinders. It's weird to me because I'm just like, that is a full-time job, and like, so I'm like we don't get, and I don't know any guys who are flooded like that. with girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and part of it might just be the way society said that guys are supposed to be
Chasing the women.
going after them,
Yeah.
right? But I think that that's the one thing where I personally don't like online dating, because like I said, I do really good in person.
Mm-hmm.
I do really good speaking to women, walking up, being confident, being funny, and none of that comes across
See,
on Tinder.
I feel like it's hard. Well, okay, I'm on Facebook dating.
Right.
And there is a lot of, messages and whatnot and matches, but it may not be the matches that I'm interested in, but I don't even always know, like, why. I don't know, you can only say so many interests in your dating profile
Right.
and whatnot. So it's like, they try to match me from that, but it's an algorithm that it's like, I feel that girls just always are going to get more, matches. More, I don't know why. I just know that when I am on a dating app, I get so many messages that I'm overwhelmed.
Right.
Like, and then I'm just like, there's these options, and there's this, and like, well, if that guy doesn't like me, this guy will like me.
Right.
And like,
Yeah, well, that's because we're women. We're attractive,
Right.
We have those options, whereas there are people out there, as Tanner said yesterday, that live in their parents' basement, and they, they don't really have any social life or anything, so they're legitimately reaching out to everybody that they can at some point on any way that they can.
So that kind of goes into like another. So one thing we were talking about is how much this has changed communication and how much it's changed dating. Because I don't know if you've heard that sentiment that I shouldn't say kids, because we're not even kids anymore. I forever feel like millennials are just always going to be a young generation. In reality, we're not even the young. We're no longer the future.
Yeah.
We were the future. Now we're just a guy. I'm a guy now. But so they had talked about how millennials were having less sex than their parents, and her and I were discussing that sounds kind of crazy, but to me, I feel like we live in this hookup culture where I was like, that doesn't make sense. However, before the internet, you didn't have people just hanging out in their basement, not coming out into the real world.
That's true.
Nowadays, with the internet, you have mainly men who are living their entire lives on the internet, in a digital world, whether they're on Reddit, whether they're on any different social media site, or just or any forums. You know what I mean? Any stuff like that. They're living entirely on the internet. They're on video games constantly, right? That didn't exist before the internet. So if you were in the basement in the 70s, it was like, what are you doing in the basement?
Smoking weed.
Right. Even nerdy kids who were just reading books still had to go to the library.
Right.
They still had to leave their house.
Yeah, to do stuff, to communicate, and you had to communicate. And now you can't. You don't have to communicate. Right. Well, you don't have to put as much effort into it.
You don't
just
even
have
need to
be
go
on a screen. You don't have to leave.
You don't even need to go to the grocery store.
Right. Yeah.
Everything can be sent directly to your house now.
Yeah.
And so I do think, in the sense that there are a really large amount of specifically men who are living their lives completely in the basement, who are still they're glued to the internet, and those are the guys who are not talking to women. Those are the guys who are just horrible, and usually they end up turning into incels. But that, I truly believe, like I said, that even guys who may have not been socially awkward in the 70s still were forced into the public. They were still forced to go interact with women. Whereas, like I said, now you've just got dudes who are living in these fantasy worlds, and they go to porn for sex.
Right.
They don't even go to an actual woman for it.
Yeah.
So that I could buy that sense that there is an entire group of young guys who are not having sex because they're not leaving their house.
Well, exactly. They are not having. They don't have. They have to leave their house, like you said.
Yeah.
They can just be on their phone, and as long as they have a charger, they're good
That's
to
all they need.
yeah, that's pretty much. And then they don't have the communicative skills that, like, for instance, right now my niece is not like, she used to not be good at talking or ordering pizza and all this stuff, and it was because, you know, like, oh my bad, it was because the internet, you know, could like be, what is it, like, she wouldn't order a pizza on the phone.
Right.
But she could do that. It's just like those things that you could do on the phone, and now you can't do it on the phone. Well, you can do it, but it's just not like you communicate it. You just text and say what you want and this
Right.
and that. So it's like nowadays they don't have the communicative skills to communicate like they used to,
Right.
I would say.
Right.
Which
Well,
is crazy.
That's what I was about to say. Is this, and it might be harder for us, but I would be so interested in seeing how much communicative skills have declined since the advent of the internet. Like I said, I'm different because even from a young age, like I always had like the gift of gab, and I was always very talkative.
Gotcha.
But also, I'm telling you, a huge part of why I'm able to speak well with people is because I was not glued to the internet. I didn't even get a cell phone until I was 16.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
That's
exactly.
good though. I mean,
But I truly think that that's, and that's what I was just wondering is how much is our communication really declined, and how much have you, I guess I should say more so, have you noticed that in men? That
Yes.
men seem less confident, that
Yes.
men are more anxious, that men are more awkward.
yes, definitely, I have seen that just because.
It turned on. I think it's like that. No, but I have to think that because I do
Men-
notice
or-
that, or I should say this, whenever I meet younger guys than me, it's even worse.
Really?
When I see like Gen Z guys compared to
Yeah.
millennials, they're even more awkward. They're
I-
even more
yeah.
just freaked out about talking to me. And I can't help but wonder if that's because when I'm on a phone screen, like I said, I have so much more control.
Mm-hmm.
I can determine when I respond and how I respond. And in person, I think you just see guys specifically just freezing up.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, definitely, because it's just like if you don't have the skills to communicate outside of the internet, because
Right.
the internet, you can literally take an app and use that app to talk the way you want to talk.
Uh-huh.
Or, you know, like if somebody doesn't spell correctly,
Right.
you wouldn't know that because they have an app for that.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like you don't really know who, or like you don't know that person until you get to meet them, and then you really see how awkward they are because they don't socialize. If you get to meet that person, I should say.
Well, and so what is something that, and I don't necessarily want to put it all on guys, because
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's
women
because women are
I'm sure
just
women
as
are just as
bad, too.
uncomfortable talking
Yeah,
in person
definitely.
usually. But
I am
what is right? So what is something that we can do to actually get better at this?
Have a conversation instead of just, hey, what are you doing? Like, try
Yeah,
to
but like,
get
how
to
do
know
you get to
somebody.
that point, though? You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
What would you choose as like a go-to